Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Samantha, and this is transirl. Today we're taking a closer look at transgender representation on stage and in film. It's a topic we've touched on several times on the show, and for good reason. Only 30% of people know someone who is transgender, according to a recent Pew Research Center study. That number falls to 16% of people for people who are 65 and over. Representation in the media becomes the way that many are exposed to trans individuals. And while there's a long and problematic history of trans representation in film, you can check out Neela's episode from season 1 for a deeper dive into that. There have been increased opportunities for transgender individuals to portray themselves and to do so in a positive manner. Tonight, we speak with a guest who has spent their career doing just that. Joining me in the transirl control room, as always, is Steven. How are you doing over there tonight?
We're doing good. Just thanks everybody for sticking with us. We hope we were able to keep you entertained in the chat room as we have our guests come in, and I think you guys are going to talk about that.
Definitely.
So thanks everyone in the chat for hanging out with us, especially Louise, who I had a great conversation with, and of course all our regulars are there with us this evening. So thanks everybody for sticking with us.
Wonderful. So if you do have any questions for our guest tonight, please be sure to go ahead and submit them on one of our live streams, and we will try to get to as many of those as possible at the end of the show here. So let's get on with our interview tonight. Our guest this week is an Emmy-nominated actor, writer, producer, and activist. He's been featured on a popular TV show and has spent the last 10 years touring the country with his live show, Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps, where he shares his experience in transition through an interactive performance to crowds across the world. So tonight, I am honored to welcome Scott Turner Schofield to the show. Scott, welcome.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Thank you for waiting for me. I am generally not a diva in that way, so I really apologize for being late. But I have a very, very cute reason. This is Harvey Milkbone. This is our rescue Pomeranian. Thank you, SoCal Pom Rescue. So my wife does a sound meditation on Thursdays at 5, which means we have to be out of the house because this guy likes to bark. And of course that collided. So I came down here, he threw up in the car, thankfully not all over me. And there was horrible traffic, and it's just one of those days. So thank you everybody for waiting, and I hope that we can make up for it by being cute.
I think you'll be just fine there. And as far as excuses go, that's a pretty good one. So Harvey, you get a pass this time, and we'll hop right into it here. Generally speaking, when I talk with people, I do want to give them a chance to let them talk a little bit about their beginnings, especially their beginnings in identity. So I did want to give you a few minutes here to share a little bit about your experience growing up and what your journey of gender identity and discovery looked like.
Sure. Well, I wrote about it in my first one-man show called Underground Transit, and that's in my book, Two Truths and a Lie. I grew up in a lot of different places, but mostly in the South and different parts of the South, in Texas, North Carolina, and Georgia. And I didn't have a word for my identity given the conservative situation that I grew up in. And so it took me, and I was still very young, but it took me a very long time to realize that, I had that experience of coming out first as a lesbian, because I thought, okay, I'm assigned female at birth, and I'm primarily attracted to women, so that must mean that I'm a lesbian, right? And the whole Ellen connection, right? Harvey, I know there's a difference between sexuality and gender. I know. But most people don't know that, Harvey. So, it was a process of figuring that out and being able to articulate that to myself and being able to articulate it to other people, and doing that in the South, right? And this was, 20 years ago. So this was at a time long before we had the vocabulary that we have now. I was very young. I had to face people not believing me, right? Not accepting me in that way. And that was what really led me to tell my story, because I didn't have any role models. I didn't have anyone, to help me until that moment when I came out and found community. Coming out helped me find community in that way. Sorry, I'm like petting the dog in his.
That's fine. He can be on camera. He can join you. It's fine.
Yeah, come on, buddy.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there are so many stories out there I hear from people where they didn't have the words, or they didn't have the vocabulary to explain what they were dealing with, because they were just never exposed to it. And I think, for me and for other people who didn't grow up in a world where, everyone had smartphones, there just wasn't access to that information like there is today.
Right.
One question I really like to ask people is, when was the first time you met or heard about somebody who was transgender, and how did that affect you?
Well, so when I was, I started going to Time Out Youth, which is still an amazing LGBTQ plus youth organization in Charlotte, North Carolina. This was before it became like such a big, amazing center. This is when we were meeting in a church basement of whatever church basement had a pastor that would let us meet there. And there were a couple of trans girls there. So I had met trans people, but none of us knew any trans guys. And there was absolutely no mention that was even a thing that existed. Right? So I didn't know that my sense of, which was something that I had always, I'm one of those trans people who I knew at a very early age. And these are some of the stories that I tell in Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps. That picture of me in the Prince outfit was, I wished that I could be Prince, and I knew that I was a boy. There you go. That's the one, right? So that's the costume I wish I could wear, but then I ended up in a Minnie Mouse costume against my will at a very young age, at age like three or four, right? I was in preschool, right? So I was one of those folks, and we're not all the same, right? Not everybody has it from an early understanding, but that was the level of fighting against everyone in my life, telling them that I knew my truth, telling the story of myself, and being ignored and put down and, told that I was crazy or stupid, right? That the level of gaslighting that our culture does around gender is something that I talk about a lot, but through the medium of stories, right? Mm-hmm. So when I first met a transgender man, I was actually at a lesbian bar in New York City. There was a bar called Meow Mix, and I had a fake ID so I could get in. And people were, it's so funny when I think about it now. It's like, how did that happen? It had to be faked, I guess, because there's no world in which I even resemble being 21 years old. Right. And there was this guy in this lesbian bar, and he was like kissing the lesbians. And I was like, what is happening? And someone leaned over and said, and actually 20 years ago, I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to say the T word because it was the word that we had. Someone said, he's a tranny boy. That was the word that we had. Okay. And we said it lovingly, like it was not an insult at the time, right? It was the word. And it took me several years, actually. I even there's press of me calling myself a tranny boy because that was it. And then transgender man showed up, right? Trans man after that. But, at that time that it just wasn't the word. So, but at the same time, all of that aside, all of the feelings and politics that we have about that now aside, at the time, it was an incredible light bulb moment, right? It was like, wait, what? Seeing yourself in someone and being old enough to recognize that, like being able to have that self-reflection and that first moment was unbelievable. And so we went out for coffee. I was very dorky and was like, can I please have coffee with you? And he gave me 2 books. Kate Bornstein's My Gender Workbook and Leslie Feinberg's Transgender Warriors. And, Transgender Warriors is evidence of history, of our history and our presence in history throughout all time and all cultures. And My Gender Workbook was a really personal sort of view into understanding, sort of figuring that out and understanding that. And so I wrote down that whole time of my life. I was in New York City at the time, and I was spending a lot of time on subways. And it seemed to me like a really apt metaphor because I felt like one of those people who just starts talking to people on the subway, at this urgency of this story that I had to tell and this discovery that I was making about myself. And also in the ways that a subway is, it certainly has a beginning and an end, but it doesn't kind of go one way, right? It's, right? You can get off at any point, you can change direction, and that felt very metaphorical for the experience that I was having of my gender. And also, I should say, we also didn't have the word non-binary. We had the word genderqueer, but that didn't fit me. I didn't feel queer in my gender. I felt really like right on in my gender. So that word didn't work for me. But when you read Underground Transit, you see that it's essentially a non-binary manifesto. And it's funny how it took me to go all the way through like trans man and trans masculinity to get back to, by the way, I'm non-binary, right? Mm-hmm. But it shows up there very clearly.
Yeah, I think it's so important that you share your experience with that, because people feel that with transitioning, or if they're questioning their gender, there's some expectation, right? There's an expectation to perform a certain way or to fill a certain spot in society. And it's so great that you had access to a resource like that when you were first coming out and discovering yourself there, because it is so much more nuanced, right? There's a spectrum. And I think that it's a beautiful thing when trans individuals allow themselves, or any individual for that matter, allows themselves the ability to explore who they are and not necessarily put themselves in a hole and say, well, this is just me forever. I don't think that's fair to anybody. So it's great that you bring that up. And I think it's such an important part of understanding oneself, that it never stops. It never ends. We're always looking at who we are and what our identity is, or at least I hope people are looking at themselves that way.
I totally agree. Yeah. When people say well, are you done with your transition? It's like, are you? Because if you are you dead? If you're not always transitioning in your life, if you're not always looking at yourself and becoming who you are, what are you doing?
Yeah. So let's talk about those early experiences for you on stage then. I am curious, what was the proto work that eventually would lead to becoming a man in 127 Easy Steps?
Right. Well, so Underground Transit, what was happening was when I got to college, I wanted to major in theater, and my college was kind of a conservatory environment. It wasn't an actual conservatory, but you worked with a professional company and you built up your acting experience by having roles in the professional company's repertoire. And so I was getting A's in my classes. I could act, right? But I wasn't getting roles. And that was because the school, the theater company, was choosing really traditional theater. And also, there still isn't enough trans representation, even in theater, right? So there wasn't any place for me to be as a person who was very non-binary presenting and sort of had the experience that I did. And what was amazing about that, and I went to Emory University in Atlanta, and the greatest privilege of that very privileged experience was the fact that conservative theater department said, it is not fair that this person is not getting the professional development that we promised them. So they said, look, if you wrote this show, because I've written this work, they said, why don't you perform it and we'll give you a production. So that I could have the experience. I had my little roles here and there, but you need a real leading role in order to have had the full experience here. So we'll give you a production. And we did the show right around winter break, and of my senior year, and there were a bunch of students from other colleges who had already come home for winter break. And so they saw the show, and by spring break of that year, I was touring the show. And I toured that show for 9 years, toured it all over the US and Europe, and wrote a second show in that period of time called Debutante Balls, which the metaphor about that was about coming out and how, you're kind of always coming out also. Right. And I also, because of growing up in the South, I was around debutante culture and I went to those balls. So I experienced that whole thing, which they call coming out, which is hilarious. So it's a show about coming out. So I did, understanding transition, coming out, and then we got to becoming a man in 127 easy steps. And we're talking 2006, 2007. So think about what representation was then. I literally was in this place of going, if I want to be an actor, a professional actor, the only thing I'm ever going to be able to do is tell my own story, because there were absolutely no stories. I mean, there were here and there were independent people creating their own work for sure, but in the mainstream, there just was not any of that. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll be one of these independent people, and I'll be like Kate Bornstein and, David Harrison and, all these wonderful queer and trans artists, right? Sean Dorsey over in San Francisco, right? I'll be like those folks. And I thought, if I have to only tell one story for the rest of my life, it has to be epic. And so I had seen the neo-futurists in Chicago do a show called the Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind, where the audience picked numbers from 1 to 30, and you would see the whole show. You'd see all 30 of the little plays in like under an hour, but you'd see them in a different order. And my friend Esper Bergman, who's a wonderful writer, amazing trans thinker, artist person, had joked and said, you should do a show called Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps. And so I was like, fine, great, 127. That's a huge number. I'll never finish performing that. I'll just figure that out. And so I did. And I really wish that Bearheads had like 49 easy steps, because now putting together 127 is like actually very difficult. But so I just started, and I didn't have 127 steps when we started. But you start where you are with what you have, right? Yeah, you start where you are with what you have, and we. Yeah, I know it was a long story. I'm talking a lot, but it was. But I wanted to be able to tell a story that was my whole life, right? Because so many trans stories are about you discovering it and you coming out, and they don't go anywhere after that. And that's like sealing us in amber in adolescence, when life is much bigger than that, right? What happens once you start passing and you move through the world, the experience of joining a gym and, being clocked as male and just getting the key to the men's room, and then being in the men's room and my towel falls off. And what happens then? That's a really good story, right? Right? Like, and then, right? And so the audience would come, and of course you couldn't see the whole story all at once. So they would pick numbers, and you get maybe 6 or 8 stories in a night, and you just have to keep coming back in order to experience it.
Yeah, I think that's really the beauty. That's really the beauty in the play, is that it is interactive, and I think that's so important when you're sharing the type of story that you're trying to share. This is not only your story, but it's helping people who are in that room understand some of the experiences you've gone through as a trans individual, and that's the kind of feedback and input that most people who aren't trans are never going to experience unless they are able to have those interactions. So you're literally putting yourself in front of these people and saying, pick a number and let me tell you. I'll entertain you, but I'll educate you at the same time. And that kind of leads me to my next question. I am curious, when you are performing, what do you personally get out of it? And what do you think your audience gets out of it?
Well, that's a good question. I've been thinking a lot lately about what do I get out of this? Because it isn't easy. right? It's really not easy to be someone who is considered a representative when you know that you're not representing anybody but yourself, right? And the burden of representation is both the fear that people think that you're speaking for the community and the people in your community who don't give you the benefit of the doubt and who push back, right? And so it makes it like sort of doubly hard because you get like pushback from within your community and pressure from without. So what do I get out of it? I think in the beginning, I like many trans people who, we have a real thing, right? We want to be seen. And it's because we spend most of our lives not being seen, right? And so that sort of like trans, I want to be famous thing, like I want to get on TV thing, comes from a place of that wounding. And it's like trying to heal that wound, right? But I'm kind of over that. It's been a long time, right? And I've been able to do my personal work and understand that my visibility is great, but there are a lot of us, and there's a lot more visibility that people can, that people should be seeing, right? I talk a lot in my work about how I want all of the stories. And the idea of like the 127 steps is it's actually there to say, you have this too. You tell yours. And so that's what I hope people get from it, is I hope that they understand that this is an encouragement, this is an incitement, right? For them to tell their own stories, for them to value their own stories, and trans people especially, right? For trans and non-binary people to really recognize that your story is epic just by existing and going through the experience that you are going through, right? And that epic story deserves to be heard.
69? 69, really? You think that's original? Okay, but let me just state for the record that I'm a feminist. Am I man enough to ever win your love? Oh, the man I am would never be enough, 'cause I can't.
So you've been working on a project here over the last little bit, and working to actually take your stage performance to the big screen. So I am curious how that experience has been treating you so far.
It's been amazing. It's a lot. Any movie that ever gets made is a miracle, right? And especially independent film. Absolute, like, angels come down from heaven and literally help you miracle. I met Andrea James, who I think you've had on your show already. We met at Outfest, actually, 5 years ago. And she had seen my one-man show live in person, and she had worked on Alec Mapa's one-man show, turning that into a concert film. And she was game. She was up for this, like, how do we take this epic of all of these stories and turn them into something that people can actually experience? Because if we did all of them as films, it would cost millions and millions of dollars, and it would be like 5 or 6 hours of work, right? And I just don't. My story is special, but not that special, right? So we figured out, like, which were the pieces that really needed to be told and that could be elevated through the medium of film. And then I realized there were several that it was really great if you listen to me tell them, but you don't have to see them. It doesn't have to be film. And so, podcast being what it is now, I recorded them. And there are also a bunch of stories where words aren't enough and song is what you really need. So as you heard in that you heard me singing, and it's one of the songs that I wrote for it. So there's a whole bunch that you can listen to. And then there are a bunch that are just really well written and good to read, right? And trans memoir is actually, like, it's a really understudied genre, because trans people have had to tell our own stories over and over again. And you go all the way back. I have some really rare books from back in the 30s, right? Of trans people telling our own stories. And that's just like Western European trans people telling our stories, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to fit and get kind of all of the different media that people have, right? That people like to engage. So I can meet you where you are, which is always what I try to do as a trans storyteller, is meet you where you are, right? And tell you a story that's going to bring you into empathy with a trans person and a trans story, right? And so, yeah, we created this film. We have all of these video pieces. We have full feature length of film. And we have several like web series videos that go around it. And this whole sort of multimedia, pick your own path through it experience. And we tested that out at Outfest this year, the pick your own path thing, and it went over really well. People really liked it. So we're just kind of trying to see like what's next now. Are we, will we release a film? Will we, will we do this? Will we find a platform that wants to do all of the multimedia things? I don't know yet. So it's kind of becoming in itself.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The multimedia aspects of it, how it's more than just the film itself. I know there's people watching right now who want to stay up to date on the latest with the project. What's the best way for people to stay in the loop, and how can people support you as well?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So big support. Like the way that work gets out into the mainstream is they see that there's an audience for it. So actually going and liking us on Instagram is actually really helping. So it's the whole title, Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps on Instagram. And we're also on Facebook. That's facebook.com/127steps. And so if you follow us, that'll really help, and we'll keep you up to date with that. We also have a Patreon. And as I said, this is an independent project. We fundraised all of this, and the audience that I've been building over the last decade plus with this work has been so supportive. And that really is a testament to like how much this work has affected people. We raised over $130,000 from just people who have seen the work, right? And who are giving in small amounts, right? But who like really see what this, have seen what it does and really care. So on the Patreon, what's cool is, Patreon, you give something and you get something. So we're still sending out, of the 127 steps, we're still sending out new stories. So if you come in even at the $1 level there, you'll get a story in your inbox every time I finish one. And you'll kind of get to be in on it before everybody else sees it. So yeah, if you want to stay in touch, I'd love it. And, we've got a ways to go. So don't think you missed it yet.
Definitely. Yeah. I know I'm contributing, and definitely hope that other people contribute as well, because it's such a cool project, and honestly, just amazing trans representation by trans people, for everybody. So very excited. And I think it's wonderful. I've had a chance to watch a couple of the steps already, and I have to say they're just so moving, in a comedic sense, in a personal sense. Just absolutely amazing work. Both your acting, your supporting actors and actresses as well, and of course the directing work of Andrea James on there. I think it's just an amazing production. So congrats on the work so far. I'm very excited to see where it goes from here.
Thank you so much. Me too.
So you've actually done quite a bit of acting on screen, on TV as well. Can I dig a little bit and talk about your experience on The Bold and the Beautiful?
Oh my gosh, sure.
It was a couple of years ago, and that's sort of why I bring it up, because I'm curious what it was like going into a non-queer environment and having to work in entertainment with people who maybe aren't familiar with working with queer trans individuals. And what I'm curious about is, what was the positive experience coming out of that, and what was challenging working on that set?
Wow. Yeah. It's so fun talking to another trans person, can I just say, because it's like, you see the whole thing. So thank you. Very perceptive. Good perceptive questions. So what was great about The Bold and the Beautiful was it really busted down a door. I had this historical first of being the first open, and we should say out trans actor in daytime television. And, people kind of scoff at like, it's a soap opera or whatever, but like 33 million people watch that show around the world every day. Right.
So that kind of visibility is incredible.
Right. And we can't go thinking that some audiences matter more than others, right? The folks who are watching this, it is primarily a much more conservative audience, right? So trans representation there is a big deal, right? And what was wonderful about it was from the top down, from the executive producer who had the idea, all the way down, people were so invested in telling that story correctly, right? They didn't want to do any more tropes. They didn't want to do it, wrong. And what was difficult was so they revealed that one of their main characters was trans. And the problem with that was that they couldn't change the actor, right? And so the actor was a cis woman. So it's like slightly better in that she wasn't a cis man playing a trans woman, which has dangerous repercussions in sort of signaling to the audience that trans women are quote unquote really men. Right? That's the problem when you have cis men playing transgender women. It makes the audience think that, trans women are quote unquote really men and that it's just playing dress up, right? Which is very harmful to trans women.
Absolutely.
To have a cisgender woman playing it at least portrays that she's really a woman, right? Like, period. Woman all the way through. Trans women are women, right? So at least it gives that messaging. But it was imperfect in that way, right?
Sure.
But I would say that, honestly, that was the hardest, that was like the worst part, was that it was imperfect. Everything else, everyone else's attitudes, the way that I was treated, the power that I was given as an actor, to have an executive producer say, look, if we're not telling this story correctly, I need you to help us. I need you to tell us what, if there's a word that's off or something that you don't feel comfortable saying, please tell us. Most actors don't get that power, right? So it was actually a really sublimely excellent experience that I'm really grateful for. Harvey's leash is now caught up in the cord, and so he's pulling
in the wires there. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Sorry,
Harvey, break.
Come on.
It's all right. But I'm glad you shared that experience, especially the part where the executive producer came to you and was interested in your input. Since this aired and some of the projects you've done, you've actually sort of compounded on that, and you are doing more consulting work, especially supporting the entertainment industry today, ensuring that trans and queer representation is being done appropriately. So I am curious if you could share just a little bit about what that role looks like for you, and what are your goals in that position?
Yeah, well, so most people don't understand when you have a big moment in television, unless you have like a series regular role, it's very hard to actually cobble together a full living, especially in a place like LA where the cost of living is so expensive. So many actors have day jobs. And, I was already working on consulting around trans issues, giving talks and giving people workshops on transgender sensitivity. So it was a really easy move into entertainment, and kind of being in front of the camera and understanding the way that writing works, how to do storytelling, because I wrote my own work and I do my own storytelling, right? I'm able to work basically from script to screen. So I work with the writers. We make sure that there aren't tropes, right? We make sure that if it's not a trans writer, that writer is getting the most accurate, authentic storytelling that they can, right? And it's hard because I'd rather work with trans writers. I'd rather we be telling our own stories. And it's been a wonderful experience working with cis people who are excellent storytellers and who listen, who really respect our authenticity and want to be a servant to it, right? That's actually a real honor in that way. Then once the script is written, I take it, I go and I work with the crew union, IATSE. I go and I give them a workshop about how to do trans sensitivity on set, and reminding them that, like, being trans actors, right? It's actually a huge vulnerability that we bring, right? And so we want, their job is to make everybody be able to do their best work. And so I give them kind of, you wouldn't believe the sort of minutia, right, of everything from making sure all of the bathrooms, right, are safe spaces, to making sure that people in the costume department are treating people sensitively because, when we are there, clothes are really kind of a trigger for us, right? And so we want to make sure that that's a good experience. The hair and makeup is a really good experience. What is the proper way to talk to one another, right? Where do you get on the slippery slope to, inappropriateville, right? And so we go all the way through. I've sat in on editing sessions to make sure that storytelling from that perspective is, again, making the best and most accurate and most authentic stories possible. And I've been really blessed with the ability to work on some really great stories. Working on Euphoria, hey buddy, working on Euphoria was a real gift, and the work that we were able to do, putting Hunter Schafer, out in front of the world, being able to work with her as an actor, and for her to say, "Oh, what this is like. Thank you." It's doing the work that I want to do in the world, which is help tell our stories in a way that's real and that resonates both with trans people and the people who love us.
And that's so important. I think most trans individuals, and I hate speaking for everybody, have some memory or experience of watching a production and there is a trans or queer individual on stage, and the entire time this scene is unfolding, they're just holding their head going, how did this get produced like this? This is so far off course. So, we know, right? We know when trans people are being portrayed accurately on camera or on film, versus when it's obviously been written without any input from anyone who's had any experiences. So the work you're doing, not only with the actors themselves, but then behind the scenes, so that trans actors can have fantastic experiences the entire time they're on set. That's amazing. That's incredible. And it's really the kind of activities we need to ensure that we do have a movie or TV industry that is open, accepting, and aware of the right way to interact with trans individuals. So that is an incredible opportunity. So that's just really amazing.
Yeah, it's been really great, and I've been able to work with GLAAD, who do amazing work in that realm too. I've got to learn from some people who, like Nick Adams at GLAAD, has been doing this work for 20 plus years, right? Like just doing this work, not only being out as a trans person, but like doing this work. And, it's just exploded. And the thing that's really wonderful, because I think we really have to keep perspective, right? People, like, I can't tell you how much people care about doing this right and well. And the very expensive work, right, that producers, like, people are really willing to put their money where their mouth is now, right? And that really matters. That's like, things are getting better. And I know in this moment in history, things feel awful, right? So I just want to share that, because something is getting better, right? Something is. And we have to be mindful of that. Like, we have to take the good with the bad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is one of those places.
Absolutely. Your advocacy work and experience on stage and training and doing educational sessions, I mean, it's extensive. It's incredible. And you've been doing it now for well over 10 years. I mean, what type of reactions do you get today compared to what type of reactions did you get when you first started doing these type of training sessions? I am curious how you've seen public responses to your work doing advocacy for the trans community shift over time.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love the answer too, because it's again one of those things. Hey buddy, hey friend. I know this is hard. He's a rescue dog, and so he has like so much anxiety as well. And it's like very healing to like, I'm traumatized too. Let's like support each other. Doing this work for as long as I've been doing it, I say, like, I could add up all of the people that I worked with before 2015. And 2015, we kind of, if you saw the documentary Disclosure, which if you haven't seen the documentary Disclosure, you have no excuse. It's on Netflix. I'll give you a code, like, go, you have to see this film. Okay. It puts trans experience and trans representation into its historical context and helps us really understand why the world sees us the way that they do and what could be changed, right? Come on, buddy, just relax. Sorry, I lost I'm a little distracted. We're talking about disclosure. Why was I telling you?
We're talking about how reactions to your work, training, educating has changed and evolved over the last few years here.
Yeah. So 2015, in disclosure, we talk about the transgender tipping point, right? 2015 was this year where all of this stuff happened. My Bold and the Beautiful role happened at that moment. Laverne Cox was a little ahead of it, as always, right? Was a little ahead of it, but her role in Orange is the New Black really became, got so much attention and was so different and positive. Caitlyn Jenner had her moment, right? So all of these things were happening in a way that really didn't go away, right? And so before that moment, I could take all of the workshops I ever did, all of the people who attended them, and can I say the F word on this? Am I allowed to? And all of the Fs they gave, right? I could add all those together, and it is exponentially more now, right? People actually care. People actually show up. People actually really do want to know, and they don't know. How could they know? People barely learn what pronouns are in English class, never mind how to use them interpersonally. Do you know what I mean? People don't learn about being trans in health class, if they even get health class in the first place. So I'm getting all of these cis people who actually really care. All they want is to be respectful, right? They don't want to give somebody a bad day, right? And so the number of Fs given, right, has just exponentially skyrocketed. And to be honest, the number of Fs given is inversely proportionate to how few Fs are given by this government about us, right? It's like that, they go low, we go high, right? The worse they get about us, the more actually people really care about us. And I know that that seems not true sometimes, the way that the world feels and the way that we especially feel in the world. But I can tell you, I have scientific proof. I have numbers of people going to workshops, right? And I'm telling you, it really is changing for the better in a large way for us. And that is amazing to witness,
It really is. And you're absolutely right. I see it daily. I see the hearts and minds of people being changed because they know trans individuals, and there is so much more visibility and positive visibility of trans individuals in the work that they're doing. The world is changing. The U.S. is changing in the understanding and acceptance of trans individuals. Whether or not the current administration chooses to acknowledge that, the people are supporting us. And every day, every year, it's more and more in our favor. And the good work that you're doing and other advocates out there are doing makes a difference. And that's why these conversations are so important. That's why these trainings are so important, because most people do want to be good allies and friends to trans individuals. And, for any trans person who puts themselves out there, it doesn't have to be on the silver screen. It can just be talking to a neighbor or a friend or a parent of another kid at school or whatever. Each of those interactions helps. It is slowly but surely changing hearts and minds across the country and across the globe to see that we're here, and trans is beautiful, right? I don't know how else to put it other than that.
Right. And, something for me that's really come up because of this, right? And, I'm not the only one doing this, and I have never been. I stand on the shoulders. Andrea James was doing this a long time ago as well, right? So there are so many people that have built this path, right, that we have created. And I've come to a point where now there are so many younger, fresher activists with so much more energy, right, who are out there really kind of, changing the world exactly where they are, doing that work, where finally I'm I don't have to do the 101 anymore. And I'm so happy about that, because I gave the same speech for over a decade. and it was tiresome, right? So now it's allowed me to move into the deeper work of working in entertainment, and also I'm working on doing the deeper work of communicating not only my story of transition, but the work that I've had to do as a trans person, right? We all share this traumatic experience, right? Because being trans in our culture is traumatic. And I've done a lot of work in that. Like, I kind of joked about being a traumatized person with my traumatized dog, but I am, right? And I have done so much work to heal from that. And that is something that I really want to share with other trans people, right? So that's kind of the next level too, is like, I'm working on next level storytelling and next level sharing, so that we can collectively heal, that we can collectively step into our power, right? And really change things beyond survival for ourselves, right? What could we do if we
That's
weren't
such
busy
a beautiful way of looking at it. It really is, because it is traumatic. And what's crazy is, even my own transition. I know that I've had privilege in my transition. I know I have, but even with that, there have been, such losses along the way, and such pain, and for most trans people, that is the experience in our society, where they will have to go through that traumatic experience. So there is beauty in accepting and sharing and healing through these shared stories. And I just love the way you phrase that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it that way before. But I think you're absolutely right. And even for myself, being able to share my story in my own way, right, in all of our own ways, is such an important part of rebuilding myself and of healing some of that trauma that I've experienced in my life. Gosh, I love that. Thank you for phrasing it that way.
Happy it helped, right? But it's, here we are in this moment. We're two trans people talking to one another, going next level, right? It's not just about the where did you come from, what was your coming out story. It's this,
right.
It's this, right? Where can we go from here? And those are the conversations that I'm interested in having now. And that, thanks to all of the people who really are willing to go out and do this work in the world and do the work of changing the world, now we can do it on all the levels, right? And we really have to support each other in that. If you're a person,
absolutely.
And first of all, another thing I want to say is, if you're a person who doesn't want to educate others, I support you in that too, because it takes all of us, right?
Oh,
it takes you just living your life and being whoever you are, doing whatever you do, being a chemist, working in a lab, right? And whether nobody ever knows you're trans or not, right? It's still, you still are being who you are and bringing the specialness of who you are to what you're doing. Right. And then if you want to be on the front lines of this in the ways that you do it, thank you, because we still need that. Right. And then if you're doing the deeper work, great. And I also want to say about this is, we're all humans and we're all going to make mistakes. And the thing that, I have to be honest, Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps out there was the hardest, because I was afraid of what other trans people were going to say about it.
It's interesting to have to weigh that, because it is hard. It is hard to be a representation or be seen as a representation of maybe the overall experience, right? So, and I experienced that too I lost my headset.
Yeah, well, on kind of a different level, right? Right? Like, there's this piece of it where we're so hurt, Laverne Cox said this, hurt people, right? We're so hurt that we take our hurt out on each other, because that's the closest splash zone of our trauma, right? And, I want more trans people supporting one another. It doesn't mean that of course we can disagree, right? That's fine. But we need to support each other, because who else is going to? Right? We need to support each other, doing whatever we're doing in whatever ways we're doing it, as long as it's not harming anybody else, right? We need to support each other so that we can all get to the next level, which is beyond just surviving, right?
Absolutely. And there's so much to say for that. Infighting doesn't get us anywhere. Whether or not you agree with everything that every other trans person says, infighting is what our enemies will use against us.
Right. Right.
All right. We are running pretty short on time here, but this has been such a fantastic conversation. Oh my gosh. I had one final question, and I wanted to get over to our viewer questions because we do have some of those that are in the queue here. My last question for you is that I know we're all dealing with COVID-19 in the world right now, and a lot of things are shut down, but what are you most looking forward to over the next year here?
I'm just looking forward to being in person with people again. I miss everybody so much. I miss hugs. I miss community. So I'm really, for as much as I've loved all the different hacks we've figured out, I'm really looking into your eyes again and having community with each other.
I'm right there with you. All right, let's go ahead and get over to the questions. We're going to start with questions that were submitted earlier this week through Instagram. If you're watching live right now and you do have any questions for Scott, go ahead and throw those in the chat. We'll try to get to as many as possible in the next 9 minutes here. So let's go ahead and look at the first one that we had, and it is, do you ever feel pressure to be a transgender representative when performing? So we have talked about this a little bit here tonight.
I think we got that one. I think we answered that one.
All right, we can go ahead and take a look at the second one here. Best advice for someone who is transgender and looking to get into acting?
Totally. Just do it and keep going, okay? There's a saying in Hollywood, it's not who's best, it's who's left. Okay? And don't listen to other amateurs. There's this thing about where, like, it's almost like being in a foreign language class where you're talking to each other and you're just trading mistakes. Only listen to people who have gotten where you want to be, right? Everybody else, I just can't tell you how much drag I've experienced of other actors saying, oh no, don't do this, don't do that. Like, there's no one way to get there. So, go to the places where you want to be, find the people, learn from them, right? And just don't let any of your inner monologue or anybody else's opinion of you stop you. There is a place for you. There is enough for everyone. So come on out here because we need more representation.
Here we go. All right. Our next question. This question might be worthy of a whole show in itself. Thoughts on cis actors playing trans characters?
Well, so we talked about the reasons why this is actually harmful, because what it actually teaches most people who don't know us, right, is that we're really what we were assigned at birth, in massive air quotes, right, and that it's just dress up, right? So we actually need real trans people in front of the camera right now because people need to understand that it's a real thing, that we are really who we know we are and that we really exist. And I have a nuanced perspective on this because I am an artist, right? I actually think some of those cis portrayals of trans people were beautiful, right, artistically, even though that they were doing a really bad thing in the world against trans people, right? So I think that we are at a step. Casting trans actors in trans roles, right, is a step. The next step, which I just did, I play a cis character. Well, he's actually a cis real human on HBO Max's Equal, which is a miniseries that's coming out in October. So I got to play a cis person, right? That's the next step, right? And I think once the playing field is far more level than it is now, and I do not think that this is going to be for many years, right? I think once a trans actor can walk in for a role and be looked at for a role exactly the same way on this, without any bias, in the same way that a cis actor can, then we can talk about allowing anybody to play everybody to just act, right? But it's about justice first, and it's about real humans first, and we have to solidify that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a great way of phrasing it. It's such a problematic part of film and TV history, but I think we're moving in the right direction overall. And
again,
I'll save that story for later. Yeah, if you haven't seen Disclosure, you have to. That's a requirement. If you're watching this right now, then you have time to watch Disclosure. So go over, watch it. All right, our next question from our viewers. Do you have a favorite step of the 127 to perform?
Do I have a favorite? Everybody always asks for 69, and that's a funny story. I do enjoy telling that story. You know, but no, actually, I don't think I do. Isn't that interesting? No, I don't.
Yeah, that is interesting. All right. Next question here. What is your dream role?
Okay, I'll just speak it into the universe. I would my dream role would be to play Kurt Cobain in a biopic.
That would be incredible. I can see that. Who do I need to call?
It would be
Tell me right now.
real
Who do I need to
stretch
call?
for me. Yeah, I would. It's and actually there's another role that I would really love to play, and I've been complaining about how every trans story has to be a biopic, right? Like I really want there to be, I really want there to just be like fictional trans characters that are all kinds of things, right? We don't have to just play ourselves all the time.
Right.
But there are a few trans men in history that I would love to play. So I'll leave it at that. But but I think that's probably coming.
I was looking at the chat while we were talking here, and earlier in the show we talked about how transition never ends. I thought it was great that somebody shared their experience, and there's actually somebody in the chat who first transitioned over 40 years ago, and her journey is still continuing. And I think
Right.
that's just beautiful, and I think it's beautiful when people stay engaged in the community as well.
Right. And think about like her existence, right, created my ability to exist. Right. We're not generally like, I do know some folks who are trans who have a trans parent, but it's not like necessarily a genetic, like, like the way that my dad had blonde hair and so I have blonde hair. Right. But the way that we create space for each other to exist through time, that lineage is beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being that.
Absolutely. We wouldn't be here without the people who came before us.
100%. I honor that.
All right. I think we got through it. That was the gauntlet of questions there, wasn't it? Holy cow.
I was scared.
Real quick.
I was scared.
Nothing to be scared of. Real quick before we wrap up, I do want to remind people who are watching right now, if you'd like to get notifications when we go live, you are very much welcome to subscribe to our YouTube page over at transirl. Our past episodes are up there. There's been some great episodes this season, great episodes last season. We've covered so many topics. If you haven't had a chance to see all the episodes, check them out. There might be other topics in there that are interesting to you. We're over on Facebook at transirl show and Instagram at transirl. And of course, if you do follow us on either of those pages, you'll have first run to submit questions to our guests. So we always recommend you put them in there first so you have the best chance of getting them answered on the show. Real quick, I do also want to share the Patreon page one more time. I'm going to mess things up for Stephen right now and throw him for a loop. But again, if you are interested in contributing to becoming a man in 127 easy steps, please go check out the Patreon page. Support this wonderful project. It's incredible. It is for trans people everywhere. And Scott, we're just so glad to have you on the show to talk about a little bit of the work you've done and your experiences.
Well, it's been a real pleasure, Samantha, and I really look forward to coming back again and continuing this conversation with you. Thank you for making the space for me and for all of the people and for giving us a representation in the way that you do. You're really good at it, so thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to Stephen for keeping things running smoothly in the background there. This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation, Scott. Really loved the chat. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck on future projects. And from all of us here at TransIRL, thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.